This video will cover the muscles of the thigh region. That's the upper part of what we call the leg. And the next video will cover the things in the crural region, or what's really known as the leg anatomically. Now, like always, we have to orient ourselves. If we don't orient ourselves first, we won't be able to know what's going on. We won't be able to navigate. This is the proximal end of the leg, and this is the distal end. So get that orientation straight. What you're looking at right now, then you can see the quadriceps femoris right there. Okay, that's a group of 4 muscles in the anterior part of the leg. And then if we turn it over this way, you can see the hamstrings, which are on the posterior aspect of the leg. Okay, so let's start in this big muscle right here. This muscle right here is called the gluteus maximus. It's your big butt muscle, your glutes. Okay, that's the gluteus maximus. Whenever you see a name like that, you know there's going to be more gluteal muscles than there are. Let's take off the gluteus maximus. Whoops, there it goes. Put it over there for the time being. And then let's orient it right here. The gluteus maximus, right underneath it, is what we call the gluteus medius. The gluteus medius right here. And underneath the gluteus medius is the gluteus minimus. The gluteus minimus, gluteus medius, gluteus minimus, and then a pyramid-shaped muscle called the piriformis. And then a group of very small muscles. They all have names, but we're just going to call them hip rotators. So let's go over that where we move the muscle again. The big muscle in that region, posterior region, is the gluteus maximus, the butt muscle. Okay? Then underneath that is a what? Gluteus medius, a gluteus minimus, a piriformis muscle, and then some hip rotators. Okay, so that takes care of that. Then I want to show you a very interesting muscle. This is across the anterior muscle, again across the anterior aspect, and that's this muscle right here. That's called the sartorius muscle. It goes from the lateral aspect to the medial aspect across the anterior part of the leg, and the sartorius muscle is one you can cross your legs with. That's actually how it got its name. The tailors, when they would sew by hand, they would cross their legs, and the tailor's trade is known as the sartorial trade. So that became known as the sartorial muscle, the sartorial muscle. Now let me show you something that's on the lateral aspect, okay, of the leg. We're on the lateral aspect of the thigh region of the leg, and this is the tensor fascia latae. It's right on the hip. It's right on the lateral side. And then this part is called the iliotibial tract. This is called the iliotibial tract, the tensor fascia latae. Okay. So now let's go back to the anterior aspect of the leg, and the group of muscles right there is called the quadriceps femoris. The quadriceps femoris, and that's because there's 3 muscles and it's in the femoral region. Let me get it right here so I can show you right. This big muscle in the middle is called the vastus. This big muscle in the middle is called the rectus femoris, the rectus femoris. There's going to be 4 muscles. Then this big medial muscle right here is called the vastus medialis, okay? And this muscle then in the lateral position is called the vastus lateralis. And then underneath of the rectus femoris is the vastus intermedius. So in the anterior thigh region, there is a group of muscles, 4 of them, known as the rectus femoris, known as the quadriceps femoris. The main muscle in the quadriceps femoris is the rectus femoris. Then there's the vastus medialis. Then there's the vastus lateralis. And then underneath of the rectus femoris is the vastus intermedius. So that is the group in the anterior thigh region known as the quadriceps femoris, made up of the rectus femoris, the vastus medialis, the vastus lateralis, and the vastus intermedius. Now let's go to the posterior side of the leg, okay? And now we start on these are known as the hamstring muscles. And the lateral muscle in the hamstrings is called the biceps femoris. Lots of femoris hanging around here. This is called the biceps femoris. Then this is called the semitendinosus. And then as we're going more towards the medial aspect, this is called the semimembranosus. And there's a little part of the semimembranosus over here because part of it goes under the semitendinosus. These muscles then, on the lateral aspect of on the posterior aspect, and we're starting laterally, the first one is known as the what? The biceps femoris. The second one is what? The semitendinosus. And then the most medial one is the semimembranosus, and there's a little piece of it down there because it runs under the semitendinosus. Okay, so those are on the back of the posterior side of the thigh. We're going to go over all the origins, insertions of those muscles so you can really learn those synergistic groups of muscles that work together. Okay, and let's look for a couple of more muscles. If we turn this direction towards the medial, we'll see this adductor magnus. Let's see if I can move it over there a little bit so you can see it. Then move it like this. Adductor magnus. Okay. Then this big muscle down the medial side of the leg is the gracilis. Okay. And then there's another adductor next to the gracilis, and that's called the adductor longus. See? And then here again is your sartorius muscle. Okay. And so now we've covered basically the main muscles of the thigh region. Let's review them. If we start out with the posterior aspect, we had the gluteus maximus, which we removed. When you see maximus, you know there's going to be more to come. This is the gluteus medius. This is the gluteus minimus. This muscle is the piriformis. These are the rotators of the hip. Okay. And then on the lateral side, we have a muscle that we want to remember. And that's this muscle. This is the what? Tensor fasciolate. And this is coming down from it is the iliotibial tract. Tensor fasciolate, iliotibial tract. Then in the anterior aspect of the leg. You see, here's the sartorius. We have a group of 4 muscles known as the quadriceps femoris. The big one in the middle is the rectus femoris. That's 1. This muscle down here is called the vastus medialis. That's 2. The muscle over here is known as the vastus lateralis. That's 3. And the muscle underneath the rectus femoris is the vastus intermedius. That's the quadriceps femoris group, which is on the anterior aspect of the thigh region. Now let's look at the posterior aspect. On the posterior aspect, we have the hamstring muscles. The first of the hamstring muscles, which is most lateral, is called the biceps femoris. See, we got 3 femorises going on: a quadriceps femoris, a rectus femoris, and a biceps femoris. So take heed, don't get them mixed up. Quadriceps femoris is the term for the 4 muscles on the anterior aspect of the thigh. Rectus femoris is the big muscle in the middle of the quadriceps femoris. And now we're in the hamstrings. The lateralmost muscle of the hamstrings is called the biceps femoris. So you got quadriceps femoris, rectus femoris, and biceps femoris. This is the biceps femoris. Then next to it is the semitendinosus, and then next to that is the semimembranosus, and there's a little piece down here because it's underneath of that semitendinosus. Those are the hamstrings. Then if we come this direction, we've got the adductor magnus. Then we have the gracilis muscle. Then we have the adductor longus. So those are the main muscles of the thigh region. Go over them a couple times and I think you'll catch on to it.